Welcome, everyone, to the Songwriters on Process podcast. My name is Benno Papari, and on this podcast, I take a deep dive into the writing process behind some of the world's best songwriters. By way of background, I am a former English professor. I have a PhD in English language and literature, and I'm a writer myself. So this is a conversation about writing between two writers. My goal has always been to treat songwriters the same way that we treat prose writers, just as writers, plain and simple. So that's all we focus on. I don't care about tour stories, favorite bands, how bands get their name, favorite foods, anything like that. This is, again, a deep dive into the songwriting process with some of the world's best songwriters. And with that, let's get into today's episode. And today on the pod, it is Greg Mendez. Mendez's latest album, Beauty Land, is out now on Dead Oceans Records. It is fantastic. He recorded most of this album directly to tape by himself in his home studio in Philadelphia, and in a small room with no natural light, which was interesting because we talked in this episode about why natural light is important and why that can be a good part of the process. I need natural light, but not everyone does. So we talked a lot about environment here. He spoke in the beginning about how he, at this moment when we recorded this, he couldn't write, I think he said, a single word. He was was kind of in a rut, and he was not able to write anything. And so we spent a fair amount of time at the beginning talking about how to get out of that rut and why that's and our own hacks that we have to get out of that, to kind of break through. And I've always maintained, and I would tell my students this, that you get writer's block not because we don't know what to say, but because we don't know where to begin. So we talked about that, and my gosh, I love this part of the conversation where we talk about, he says he had this idea once, and you're free to take it, he'll let you, of an album where each song on the album is the song title is a different type of car. And that song, the beat of that song is the corresponding turn signal rhythm of that car. And wow, I can't imagine what that would sound like. But that was in the context of environmental noises and how we get ideas from those things. So anyway, love this album. I love this conversation. Mendez's latest album, again, is called Beauty Land on Dead Oceans Records. Here's my interview with Greg Mendez. Well, first of all, I always start with a very simple question, and that is, are you a write when the mood strikes type of person, or I need to write every day to kind of maintain the muscle? I think people fall into two camps. There are those who feel like pushing things, can make things derivative, and others think that no, you button the seat and do something every day. So where do you fall in in those categories?
I think I would like to be the one who does it every day, and I think I've tried that, but I am mostly, I think at heart, when something hits me, do it.
So when you tried it, was it because someone said you should do it, or is it like, I really need to increase my output? And then I guess the other follow-up to that is when you did try it, why was it not successful?
I think I just tried it because I just like writing music, so I like to be doing it more often than not. But I do think there is something, and I think sometimes I maybe am more, what's the word for it? Productive about it. But I think especially at least for the initial idea or something, I think I've learned that it's something that I can't really force. And if I do, it kind of just ends up not being very good, which is fine. And sometimes I'll be in periods where I could just I try to play guitar or something every day. But especially with writing lyrics, it's just kind of if I'm not in that zone, I'm just not in that zone.
Does it give you some anxiety if it's been a few days or an extended period of time and you haven't done anything? Do you at some point feel like, okay, I need to do something?
I think I used to feel like that, and now I'm kinda just care less. Like, not that I care less about, like, what I'm doing, but that I care less about, like, periods of time where I'm not doing it, and I appreciate my, like, whole life a little bit more recently rather than just, I feel like there was a time where my whole identity was, like, as a songwriter and stuff, and that was how I judged my worth, like, as a person, and I think that I've kind of grown out of that and am much happier for it and much less, like, I don't know, I just don't put too much pressure on myself these days.
There's a great quote by the writer Dorothy Parker. She says, "I hate writing. I love having written."
Mhm.
And I love
Yes.
that. Right. I mean, I'd love to think that when I sit down and write, it's pure joy. But there is that kind of sense of, yeah. I mean, how often do you feel when you're writing like this is amazing? Like you really fully enjoy it in the moment.
Not that often, and I think I mean, I think a lot of times, like, struggling and pushing yourself is, like, the thing that makes it good in the end, so, yeah, sometimes it's totally, like I mean, sometimes it's like, I wanna pull my hair out.
Do you do other types of writing, like journal writing, anything like that?
Not too much anymore, but it is something that I kinda wanna try and get into maybe, or just, like, I don't know, like, automatic writing or something. Because I'm currently going through a period where, like, I cannot write, like, a single word to save my life, and, that's fine, but I have all these, like, song ideas building up, and I'm just like, I got no, I got nothing to say.
Okay, so let's talk about writer's block. Um, or let's not call it a block. Let's call it a rut. But before launch into that, what's funny is that a lot of songwriters say, I don't journal, but I really should. I really used to go back a year later and see how many of them actually took it up. I think most of them say what you, and that is, I really should do it. And I don't know how many a year later, like, yeah, after we had the conversation, I was a journaling fiend. I don't think anyone does that.
That'd be an interesting poll, though.
I know it should. I just thought about that because what you said is something almost everyone says. That it's either I do and I love it or I don't, but I'd like to. Um, so I interviewed the writer Anthony Doerr. He wrote a Pulitzer Prize winning book called All the Light We Cannot See about 10 years ago, I think. And I said, we talked about writer's block, and he said, I don't believe in writer's block. He said, writer's block is a failure of courage. In other words, don't be afraid to write the bad stuff. And when I was a professor, I would always tell my students writer's block happens not because we don't know what to say, but because we don't know where to begin. I mean, and what you said was you told me that you are having trouble writing a word and yet you have all these song ideas. And right. So it's not that your mind is blank. If I'm hearing you correctly, it's that there's so much up there. It's almost like a sense of where do I begin? Is that accurate?
Yeah, maybe. And I think it's like I kind of think of them as different, like, muscles, though, I have a bunch of, like, you know, songs as in, like, chords and melodies and stuff like that, or like the musical parts, and I even know, like, what the syllables will be when there's words, like the rhythm of the words, but then a lot of times I'll just have, like, a bunch of those, and then, like, my, like, word writing muscle is just, like, not it's just like, "I'm sleeping, I'm tired, you used me a lot," and then it'll wake up at some point or something there. I feel like I usually have to have, like, some kind of, like, breakthrough of sorts where something just clicks into place, and then I'll kinda be in that mode for a while, and maybe I'll put finish, like, a bunch of songs in a shorter period of time. But I also, like, really struggle with, starting words for sure, and I struggle with, what's the word for it? Sorry, I'm kind of just like drawing a blank. Like right now, I'm struggling to figure out what.
In real time.
Yeah.
So the words are there, right? And so it's the trick is how to get them out. I mean, because again, if what I'm hearing you say is not that, oh my gosh, there's nothing to write about. It's you even talk about how you've got like the syllables are up there. Um, but I think that those ruts happen because we almost, I mean, when I was a professor, I would tell my students would say something like, I'm not sure what I'm trying to, they'd write something or they try to write something. And I'd say, what are you trying to say? And they would tell me, and I would say, you just said it, write that down. So, because we almost feel like we have to have that perfect, things have to be perfect in order to start to write. I don't know. I guess part of it means thinking about how you can kind of break through that, like what you can do because it's one thing to say, "Oh, I have nothing to write about." It's nothing to say, "I have so much to write about, and I'm not even sure where I should be beginning." Because it seems like you're more into that part of it rather than my mind is blank. There's nothing for me to write about.
Yeah. I mean, but also my mind is kind of blank too. Like, and I always go into songs like I always go into them where they're not about anything, or I leave it very open as far as I can kind of start with like words and phrases that I think sound good, and then like let the rest like come from there. And I don't know. It probably is something that I could get out of the rut if I just like started to do it, but I also like, I kind of just like taking breaks.
Yeah, and there's a value to that too. I talk to plenty of songwriters who are seasonal writers, and by seasonal, I mean actually they don't write during like the summer or they deliberately take those breaks so that by the time the break is over, they have so much to write about
Yeah. Yeah,
that
I think
it's overfilling.
yeah, I definitely think there is like even just like the metaphor of talk is it a metaphor talking about it like a muscle? Like
Yeah.
you can strain it. You can overwork it, I think. And I think that I also think it's hard cuz like you know, living in this society that we do where which, obviously equates everything to like monetary production value and stuff. And there is a lot of pressure where it's like if you're not doing this every day and like maximizing your output, then you're not doing the best you can. And I think that for like making art, that just isn't true all the time. Where it's like, yeah, you might be like making more stuff, but and there is a level to which like practicing and doing it makes you better, but there's also a level where it's like, you need to have some rest built in. Like you need to sleep. You need to stop doing bench presses or whatever. Like, you wouldn't just like go to the gym and like do 5,000 bench, you know what I mean? And I feel
Yeah.
like that's like not built in. And it's in like other work lives too. It's like 8 hours a day at the fucking whatever, it's just all just like, maximizing output at the expense of like us as people and us like growing.
I agree. And I would tell I always tell people that if you think that the writing process only happens when pen hits paper, you'll never succeed. But your writing process is always taking place. It's taking place when you're sleeping, when you're doing those bench presses, when you're eating, right? It is. And that to me is a consolation. It's like there's something going on up there in that mind, even if I'm not actually writing
Yeah.
because and I think that I always find that to be comforting as a writer when I feel like I'm struggling. It's happening, and when it's ready, it'll happen.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said about that, and I mean, I'm actually reading this, like, book about consciousness right now, which is kind of like a controversial and, like, crazy book, but a lot of it I find really interesting, and part of it was talking about how, like, so many, like, great inventions and stuff, like, almost, like, across the board, it's like they hit a wall, and then it was like, you're taking a shower, and you all of a sudden, like it just comes to you, or you're shaving, whatever it is, you're driving, and it's like your brain is just like turning it over and making connections, and almost when you're like thinking about it or trying to think about it, you might actually be hindering that.
So I was going to ask you about this later, but we'll get into it now because the one quote I always give songwriters is an Agatha Christie quote. And she said, the best time to write a book is when you're doing the dishes.
Yeah.
And there was an article, right? This is exactly what we're talking about. There was an article in the Washington Post last year, a couple of years ago, why we get our best ideas in the shower. So the idea behind that and the number of songwriters and myself too who tell me they get ideas while they are mowing the lawn, folding laundry, gardening, doing the dishes, vacuuming, any or driving, any activity that requires repetitive motion, unconscious repetitive motion lets those ideas bubble up, right? You're not, I mean, I interviewed Mary Timony. I'll never forget this a couple of years ago. And she said, the guitarist, and she said that she had this job one summer, all she was doing was like licking and stuffing envelopes. But she got so many song ideas while she was doing that because there was no brain activity attached to what she was doing. So I'd love to discuss that because what you said is exactly right. That when and as awful a person as he was, Scott Adams, the creator of Dilbert, he said something like boredom is the ideal creative state. So all these things, you're bored. Uh, but I think there's a difference because I think, so let's first talk about things maybe not movement, because I think driving and movement is another, I think that's different. But it sounds like you do get ideas when your brains are engaged in those monotonous, repetitive activities. Does that happen to you often?
Yeah, just on the way over here, I was driving and I came up with a like chord progression and melody in my head and got here and, put it down on voice. Especially if it's like somewhere that I know that I don't have to pay attention to where I'm going. Like if it's just like, somewhere that I've driven to a million times. I mean, I honestly like in Philly, like I've just like driven everywhere for so long that like I don't really have to think about where I'm going and I don't have to put it in on, GPS or whatever. And that in those times, if I'm going somewhere new and I have to be following directions, it's not going to happen as much. But if it's kind of just like, here's where I make a left, here's where, oh, change lanes really quick, then yeah, then it kind of becomes a thing where I am going to have ideas doing that.
I feel like you're anticipating everything I'm going to say next because what I was going to say was that, yes, I think there absolutely is a difference. Like if you have to pay attention to where you're going, but that's what I'm talking about. Your brain is already engaged there. But if you're going to a place they've been to 500 times, your brain is on autopilot. Um, I think it was David Byrne that said something like a car is a great place to write lyrics. It frees up your brain because you're engaged in that repetitive motion. So, okay, now further to that, do you get ideas while you are what's the word, self locomoting? Like, what about when you're walking or when you're maybe biking or something like that? Because I think that's a little different because there's more solitude involved. At least I think there would be. So do you get ideas when you're doing that kind of movement?
Walking sometimes, but I feel like they're not as good when I'm walking as when I'm driving for whatever reason. But I do sometimes like consciously write lyrics while walking, which I don't do so much while driving for
I
some
would
reason.
hope not. Yeah. Well, um, I never, when songwriters tell me that, I never follow up with, I hope you're writing lyrics at the stoplights or in a parking lot. Not loaded. I don't want to know the answer to that question.
Well, I just write them in my head when I'm walking either. I'm not like, it's if it's something simple, it has to be a particular kind of song, like you know, a simple, not too wordy.
Let me throw this out at you because I've heard stories and I've heard songwriters tell me that turn signals, that there's something about repetition of the thing that they're hearing when they're driving. There was an old story about the Bee Gees. Jive Talkin' was, I think that the beat in Jive Talkin' was inspired by driving over bumps or something like that. Um, so
Yeah.
I wonder if there's something to that that you may not realize this, but as you're driving, there are sounds, there are repetitive sounds that are almost like a click track, right?
Yeah.
A metronome thing.
I mean, I'm always like drumming along to them like on my legs. And I like years ago had this idea which I'll never do. So if anyone listening wants to do it, where like doing an album and every song is like cuz every car has a different blinker. Like every so like you record the
Yeah.
blinker and it's like the basis for this and then you call it like 1994 Plymouth Acclaim or like whatever, you know.
Yeah. Who was it? I had God, this is during the pandemic. I interviewed Stu McKenzie of King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, and he told me that car alarms great source of inspiration because they're all different, and there's something about those car alarm sounds that are stimulating.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely, you know, I feel like if you just listen to there's a lot of like interesting like mechanical things in this world.
And then there's the question of writing in the city versus writing in, you know, overlooking a forest. We're in a forest, or do you think you could write effectively if I planted you in the middle of the woods in a cabin? Do you think the solid that kind of environment would be productive, or do you think you need a little bit of busyness around you?
I think I personally, I mean, I've never really tried that. Um and haven't found like I think I personally thrive more in the busyness and I also feel like the it like informs the content of what I write more than which is kind of like, you know, not to say that I couldn't do that, but I think I'm so like I think I would have a lot to learn about nature and like solitude before I could really mind that as much. You know, be like starting fresh.
Yeah. Now, switching gears, when it comes to lyrics, are you a pen and paper person or more of a technology person?
I think I'd use whatever is there, honestly, like, which sometimes is just like notes app on my phone. I do like to, if I have like the choice, I'll at least start with like a notebook and a pen, and, and then I'll have like so many pages of the same thing, and there's like various words changed and crossouts and whatever, and there's definitely like a lot of editing. But then, honestly, at some point, then I'll even switch it to the notes app because there's like something different about it that kind of um, makes me think differently about it. And lately, that's been like my final draft.
I feel like this is the theme of what we're talking about is how those different environments can produce different things.
Yeah, I guess
Um,
so.
it's interesting stuff. I mean, I'm processing this as you're telling me this, and it's kind of like the theme of what we've been talking about. That whether it's pen or notes app, it it it's a different. It stimulates your brain, but I think any good writer knows that at some point, like things get stale, and you've got to shock your brain into doing something different. Like I find that for me at least, like if I am in one room in the house where I'm not feeling it, if I go to another room or go outside, it's amazing the difference that it makes.
Yeah, maybe I'm just doing that unconsciously, like switching the notes app. I don't know. I never thought about it like that, but
This
that
is a
could.
therapy session, Greg. I didn't tell you this in I didn't tell you this in the beginning. That's my other. I'll send you the bill afterwards. Um, does color of ink matter? Brand of pen? You'd be surprised how important this is to some people.
I think I definitely have preferences, but I will yeah, I like those like not gel pen like the Pilot V7 or whatever. I like those ones. They just feel nice.
I just interviewed someone yesterday who said the Pilot pen. Oh, you know, who I interviewed. I interviewed Jason Newsted from Metallica, the bassist. Because
He
he
likes those
now
too.
what's that?
He likes those pens too.
He does. He told me pilots.
That's cool.
Did you say I forgot, did you say color of ink? Does that matter?
I think I like black, but I've definitely written some shit in blue just because it was there.
How about type of paper?
Usually just like a small notebook, no lines. I hate lines.
Okay, why no lines? Again, this is a very controversial topic, line versus unlines, and you were you're very emphatic about you hate it. So,
Yeah,
what's with that?
lines. That's maybe my most particular thing with paper. I just don't. I just something about writing on the lines just like bothers me, and then it bothers me if I don't do that, and there's just like lines going through. Like I don't know. It's just more natural to me to just write things, and then the lines will kind of be like. Usually, I think they go downward when I just write things, and then they all kind of go downward. But I don't know, maybe I just like started writing songs on unlined paper and just got used to it. But yeah, lines really like trip me up.
When you are writing lyrics on that paper and you want to cross something out, is it a single line? Or are you scribbling it into oblivion so that you cannot see that word anymore?
Depends on how embarrassed I am of the word. If it's something that I want nobody to ever see that I even thought of it, I'll scribble in an oblivion, even like who's looking, but you never know. And then if it's something where maybe I'll want to go back to that word or I'm like, it's interesting, it's just not right, then maybe I'll keep it visible.
And there's something just to me, uh, as bad as my handwriting is, that it's just so much more authentic. I feel that when I look at things I've written on a pen and paper, that takes me back to the emotional state I was in. You can almost see that, but you can't really see that in a note. Well, you can't see it in a notes app, but
Yeah.
you can almost. I mean, I think that can be helpful if you're trying to be if you need to be taken back. Like, what moment was I in when I was writing that thing? And I think looking at it will make you feel that way.
Yeah, I think maybe there's something to that, or like how fucking how much in a rush was I, or like some of it's like scrawled, or like really angry looking letters or something like that. Or yeah, there is something like emotional about handwriting for sure.
Now, continue with the ritual. How particular are you as far as time of day? Are you more effective during a certain time of day, morning, night? Are there certain places? Does that matter to you, that part of the ritual?
I think the time of day could vary. I feel like I've lately been like kind of a morning person, which like for years I was not, but I don't know. Something about the morning feels really like inspiring or like, yeah, I don't even know what it is. The light, the fact that, you know, things are beginning. The, there's not that many people around usually outside. Or if they are, they're just like doing a task, something about the morning lately has been, and I kind of just like sit wherever there's this like desk in our living room that has like three windows, like a bay window, and that I feel like I've been sitting at that kind of recently because it's just nice to look out.
If you read any articles or see any pictures of the most iconic novelists or poets, they're all at a desk that's looking out a window.
Yeah, I mean, it
No
makes
one
sense.
writes in a yeah. I don't think I know she didn't. Virginia Woolf didn't write in a basement. There, but I think there's something to that. There's something to be. It's the natural light. Um, it's I think just being able to see things outside. I mean, I don't know. For me, it's important to know what works because I want to put myself in that space as much as I can.
Yeah, yeah. I
Now,
mean, I wonder if you could have a different kind of great writing if you did just lock yourself in a basement.
some people probably could. I'm sure some people probably could because you're distraction free. I mean, it is
Yeah.
very easy if you're staring out the window. to see things that might distract you. But I just look at it as I've got to have natural light. I don't overthink it. I think I just have to have natural light. But I'm sure that some people would be effective in a basement as long as there's nothing around there.
Yeah, just like more of a darkness or something.
Uh Now you did say you like the morning, but define morning. Like what are we talking? How early?
Like before 9,
Okay.
I feel like is the time that feels special to me, where it's like not quite, fully bright and you don't have people just really out just to be out.
Were you ever a right through the night type of person?
Yeah, maybe when I was like in my early 20s or like, when I was younger, I like go to bed early now pretty much for
It, Also, I did read that it's genetic, that it's genetic if you're a morning person or a night person, and you really can't change that.
Yeah. I mean, there's sometimes I'll stay up for sure, like, but I feel like more often than not, it's the morning is like better for me.
All right, let's switch to the new music. What was the easiest? Was there a song on the new album that was just lightning in a bottle, all in one take, and I'm not going to touch it because there's a reason why it happened so quickly.
The first song I want to feel pretty was like pretty fucking quick. There were like some words that I changed later, but like single words. But it was pretty much just like a 20-minute song.
Really?
It's very simple. There's not really much going on. And I think the last song also Concussion, that song's like 5 years old at this point. I just never really recorded it in a way that I liked and it never felt like it fit on anything, but that was also very quick.
The songs that happen quickly, do you feel like there's a reason why it happened quickly? Do you revise those a lot? Doesn't sound like you do, but some people say, "Hey, it happened quickly for a reason. I'm not going to touch it."
Sometimes I feel like I just try to be objective about it and not think about whether it happened quickly if I'm thinking about whether to revise it. Um like I think there is something to it happening quickly as far as like I don't know, I think a lot of especially with like music, like I feel like a lot of it is like received more than I don't know received from what, like maybe received from my own brain or whatever, but I think that when they come quickly it's just like there's less of a friction and resistance to like the transmission of it rather than like, oh, because it's special. Because I think some of them that take longer, I think are just as good.
Well, you said the song that Concussion, I think you said the song that took 5 years. So was that 5 years of periodically returning to it, or was it at some point you saw it was laying around and you thought, "Oh, I gotta pick that up again."
Oh, I didn't like change it at all. It was written 5 years ago, but it was very quick, and
Oh,
I didn't
okay.
change it. Yeah.
Alright, the flip side to that, is there a song on the new album that was just you you really struggled with it, you were just and you wanted to give up? Like, what was the hardest song on the album to write and complete? That was a real struggle, if there
Mm,
was one.
I think most of them were not that. I mean, the thing I struggled most of the songs, as far as like the lyrics and melodies and chords and stuff, were like pretty. Like I didn't struggle with them that much. As far as like the arrangements, there was a lot of struggle there, and probably "I Wanna Feel Pretty" was the one that I struggled with the most in terms of
Oh,
that.
really?
Yeah. It was so easy to get the bones of it that, of course, it had to be difficult somewhere. Oh, but, yeah, maybe "So Mean" I kinda struggled with, like, lyrically because and I actually ended up, like, going back to like, I got really self-conscious of it the way that it is on there, and I tried to rewrite it, like, probably 100 times. Like I think I filled an entire notebook trying to rewrite the lyrics for that song before just going back to what it was originally.
So is it accurate to say that the more you struggle with a song, the more likely you are to finish it?
Yeah, maybe. I think that sometimes, I mean, if I feel that the initial like spark of it is like strong enough, like I'll struggle with like I'm down to struggle through it. And sometimes I do just, call it a day. And a lot of times I call it a day on songs and then like I'll bring them back like years later or whatever because I'm just,
I think we all do that. Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to give up on something completely.
yeah, and
Um,
sometimes it's just not the right time. You're not, like sometimes you start a sentence and you can't figure out the end until, I don't know, more time and experience and, you know, has passed by.
and then you're in the shower and the eureka moment happens and then you
Exactly.
finish it. All right, last question. You did mention that book Unconsciousness, but are you? I do find that songwriters there's a pretty clear through line between lyrics and reading. I mean, I don't talk to many songwriters who say they never read. So, how important is that to you? How often do you get to read, and if you and who do you like to read?
I try to I've been better about it this year. I do like struggle with pretty intense unmedicated ADHD. So I there were like well, there's like years where I was just constantly like trying to start books and would never be able to finish them. And I just kind of recently just finished like 4 books. Like in like, like I've been like consistently reading for the past like few months, probably from like the end of 2025. And it's been really nice. And it feels like I like unlocked something that I used to have that I kind of like struggled with for a large chunk of my adulthood.
That's awesome. So, are you a fiction, nonfiction? Does one genre appeal to you more than others?
I like both of them to be honest. Like I just like I'm reading a nonfiction book right now, and I just finished Their Eyes Were Watching God before that. And before that, I read like a philosophy book, and before that, a fiction book. I'm kind of just like I have a lot of I like go to used bookstores and like get things a lot, and so there's just like a a bookshelf full of things, most of which I haven't read. So I kind of just like finish one thing, and I'm like, what strikes me right now?
Well, what does strike you? I'm curious. If you go to that bookshelf, how do you know what to pick out?
I'll just know. I don't know. right, right now, it's this book on consciousness, the origin of consciousness.
I'm thinking you should try maybe short stories because short stories you can read at a pop.
Yeah, I do. I am
Uh,
in the middle of this like Raymond Carver short story book,
nice. He's
which
great.
I know I really like them, but then the thing like I still struggle with it because I'm like it's a book and I still like want to read the whole thing, but I'm like in the middle of it and it's been probably like 6 or 8 months since I've cracked it and it still feels like an unfinished thing, you know?
So we'll end with this then. If you're reading a book and you're just not feeling it, do you have to finish it or can you just set it aside and never pick it up again?
If it's because I don't like it or I don't think it's good, I could set it aside. If it's but then there's another thing where it's like, if I'm like, this is good, I want to read this, I just like can't focus on it, then it's something that I'll put down and like with the intention of picking back up.
And that's it for the latest episode of Songwriters on Process. You can find all of the old episodes on all major streaming platforms and probably some minor ones as well. You can also find them on the Songwriters on Process website. I started the site back in 2011, so that means there are hundreds upon hundreds of interviews with some of the world's best songwriters. So take a deep dive into some of those episodes. They are all great. Of course, I'm biased. Also, shameless plug. My book, Desolation, a Heavy Metal Memoir by Mark Morton with Benno Papari, that is me, is out now on Hachette Books and in all major bookstores. Mark is a good friend of mine. He is the guitarist in the metal band Lamb of God. And so we collaborated on his memoir. I'm biased, but that's a damn good book. Again, it is called Desolation, a Heavy Metal Memoir. And lastly, if you want to get in touch, go to the Songwriters on Process website. You can fill out a handy contact form and it'll get to me that way. You can also email me at ben@songwritersonprocess.com. I'm all ears. Send me your comments, your suggestions, your complaints, people you want me to interview. I get great suggestions all the time. I can't respond to all of the emails because I get a lot of them, but I do read all of them. And let me know your thoughts. If you have ideas for people you want me to interview, there's your chance. And with that, I am out. See you next time.